I realized if you give sermon, nobody will listen. If you give the sermon in the form of a story, everybody will listen. I decided to do engineering, which was unheard. People thought there's something wrong with my brain. Maybe a teenage girl can imagine anything. And how a girl can do engineering.
Books as a medium are not very popular in our countries. What books mean to you, and what do you think, parents, a lot of adults listening to it, how should they think about books?
At the end, lady students need not apply. I just walked back to the hostel. They said, what do you mean by lady students need not apply? I could have kept quiet. I said, no, this is not correct. And in my small way, I should protest it. She opened my eyes. Life of animals on the street, in the shelters, medicines. So many areas we are working with keeping animals safe, operation, aware.
Mrs.Murty, welcome to SparX. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. Last evening, I was telling my son, who is 15, who I'm interviewing. So he told me, finally you're getting somebody I can look up to. He's read many of your books. And in fact, I have also last few weeks, I read some of your books. I think you've written too many for me to cover in a short period of time. But I'll tell you something personal that, as a reading for this book right here, the Grandma's Bag of Stories. Initially, I thought I would just sit to flip through so that, I get to know a little bit about your writing style and so on. But to be honest, I kind of got hooked. And a lot of childhood memories came back to me, about how stories are so powerful. I mean, these are simple stories, but they touch you in a way, that touch on your emotional strings. So I want to just maybe start there. You have been a prolific writer. You've written so much for children. These stories, which on the surface are very simple, and yet, they pack this powerful message that, and I think everybody from a child to an adult can enjoy. I'm really enjoying it. I probably want to read some more of your books, but we will start there. Why, stories are a big part of, your writing style.
There are many reasons. Number one, I realized when I was very young, if you give sermon, nobody will listen. If you give the sermon in the form of a story, everybody will listen. I was a class monitor in school. I went to Kannada medium school, and when I was in a class 4th or 7th or 8th, I was a very short girl, so not a shorty. My teacher went to maternity leave. So it was 4 o'clock was her class. So she said, I'm not coming next for 3-4 months. You monitor, you have to hold the class. And everyone in my class are very taller than me. If the shorty wants to hold the class, they won't listen to me. They'll make more noise. Then I realized I knew fairly well history. For various reasons, I knew history. I started converting every story of history, every incident of history into a form of a story.
Okay.
And went on giving, telling them stories. And they were hooked to the stories. That time I realized I must have been 10, 12 years old. The best way to convey anything is don't give a sermon. Make a story. Create a story. The message should be part of the story. And people will remember that along with the value or sermon or what you want to.
And a lot of these stories, it comes across that you weave in the knowledge of how life in India at large is, not in cities, but a lot of in the rural India, villages, the life of everyday person, both in the contemporary times, but how it was in, many decades ago.
My time.
Your time, right? And one is your memory is clearly very sharp because you talk about, very, very specific situation. You can almost visualize how the home was, how people go to school and so on. Just maybe we'll talk a bit more about your process. How do you conceive these stories? As a constructing story, a lot of them are, it requires imagination and you need to make it relatable. But just your whole process of, designing these stories.
I tell you, I was born into an era, fortunately, there are not too many digital devices which can distract you. Digital devices are must, but distraction also is very high. I want to tell a very funny thing, I used to write my stories and keep quiet. One day my son and daughter-in-law came and told me, Amma, everyone goes for digital nowadays. So people want digital phone. I was reluctant. I said, no, I'm happy with my writing story. They said, you don't do. So they started doing My story is like Grandma Bass's story in a digital format, on a YouTube. It became very popular. But I always say they are based upon Sudha Murty's book. Okay? And what I write, then they should see that one.
Yeah.
Not what I imagine, I will not directly give them. That I have to make a story. So now they have started Murthy Media. And they are very popular. Gopi is there. And I myself am there in Sudhaji. And I tell the stories. So this they have hit 1 million, I think. Then I realized the power of the media.
Yeah.
Until that I said, media should be, they have to read books alone. Now I say you have to read books and then you have to see that. Then it enforces a lot of stories in your mind.
Right.
This is the new thing I learned. I grew up in a village and my grandfather was a school teacher. He was a history teacher and a Sanskrit teacher. We had a small library. And the only thing is what I could develop when I was young is imagination. So he will tell the story of Rama or Vishnu or Shiva and describe what is the form of shloka. But how he is really visually is Lord Vishnu, I have to imagine. The idea of imagination actually developed when I was very young.
Yeah.
That helped me a lot during my creative stories. For example, if I write a story, I can visualize the whole scene like a film. The whole shot will be ready in front of me. The house, the trees, the birds, the flower, the sari, what they are wearing, everything I can see in a frame. I only do the narration part, writing it. That's all. So I visualize every story in my mind. And this is because thanks to, in that era, we did not have a distraction. See, when you think of Rama, I can think of a blue color, tall, handsome, with the Dhanurdhari, etc. I asked my daughter, you imagine Krishna and tell me, how do you think? She described Nitish Bharadwaj, who was Krishna in 80s time. Okay. I asked my granddaughter to describe Krishna. She has described Saurabh Jain. Because they see them on TV, so their imagination is curtailed. Because I have a vast imagination, which I developed as a young.
And these images, when you're thinking of a story or topic, they kind of come to you in a flash, or it's a process that you're thinking about it and you are trying to, and then kind of it comes together, you're able to visualize the whole thing.
Everybody has a different way, actually. And my way is my own way. When I think of a story, until the story is ready in my mind, I will not write. And the story will, once I get that hook of the story, hang of the story, then they will follow, the frames go on following it. And once the story is complete, then only I will write.
Right.
It is not that I will write and wait. No. I start with the story and give some time and it starts coming the sequence. It is sequencing with the frame. Then this is my way. I have a very peculiar way of writing. For example, if I have to write a column, if I have to write, matter of fact, certain incidents, then I will write in English. And that's true on computer. Okay? If I do write a novel, which is more emotional, okay, there are no facts, more than that, in my imagination, the emotions, then I write in Kannada. And in a shorthand, on a paper, and keep it for a month or two. Then I don't read. Afterwards, I reread it again. So, the story, which is a novel in my mind, takes 3 years.
Oh, wow. So,
okay? 3 years I'll be thinking, because I have learned this technique when you write a novel, which is not a fact, but some facts you have to use, some imagination you have to use. It's like a weaving. Okay? So one thread is imagination, other thread is reality. And you go on weaving the mat. At that, the mat is ready, but the readers will not know which is imagination and which is real. Okay? This is the one way of creating. And I wrote a novel by the name House of Cards. It took almost 10, 12 years for me to write because I was not convinced. At first, I should be convinced. Then I described the village known as Aladhalli, which is 30 kilometers from Hubli. And you take a left turn, what trees you can see, everything I described. And people have gone and searched and there's no answer. There's no Aladhalli on the left side of the... there is a lake. You get down at the lake bus stop, take a right turn. And people have gone, there's no right turn. But left turn is my village.
I see.
Okay? The village description is perfect. But the story is imaginary.
Right. And the stories are incredibly powerful. Right? In general, the story is a format. They're memorable. They have kind of emotional contours to it. a great tool for learning. And you said, imagination, because when you're reading a story, I think brain automatically starts imagining those things. So it become versus consuming a content and you're watching a screen, then your brain is very passive because you're fed all this information in one shot. I know you're involved in education both through your foundation work as well now. I think you're with NCRT.
I always told them in NCRT that give me story writing for children 5, 6, 7 class. Don't give me higher classes. And you have to encourage children to imagine, to see, to describe that. Many people have stories, but they can't write it. Somebody asked me, why all peculiar incidents happen? Only to you, not to us. I said, no. Everybody has lots of stories, but they do not know how to write it. And that you have to learn that technique. Learn the technique. Learn continuously, read continuously. A good author is also an excellent reader. Not vice versa. All excellent readers are not good authors.
You're right. But I mean, that's a good point you're making, that all of us probably have those stories somewhere. It's just that we are not thinking about them deeply.
You think it's very simple. No, you just go back and pick up any one of them. And if you could describe it, it will be a story.
Yeah. Maybe that's one thing, I think people who are going to be listening to, I know people are going to be very inspired by your journey and everything you have to share. But maybe one thing they can do on their own, there's an inspiration from this, just, take half an hour or 1 hour and think about the peculiar incident that might have happened and try to articulate it. That we can come. See, you're reading your books, Ms. Murty, I realized that you are able to recollect so many small intricacies from, early childhood, which is now, 5, 6 decades ago. I was wondering, how can someone remember, I remember so little. I know broad, big things that happened, but I don't remember small things. Or maybe they are somewhere there. It's only that you are not indulging and going back and thinking deeply about it.
You have to give rest to your brain and think that one. As a children, your mind is fresh. Yeah. And there's the ink is spilled on the ground, and you take a sponge and put it on that. It absorbs everything. So is mind. When I go to a wedding, even now, my observation is what is the flower arrangement, who people come, how they talk, what they wear, what are the people who are not who are the people who are not participating. So these are all small things I go on gathering by practice, and that will appear somewhere in one of my novella weddings.
Right.
Okay, small observation like how a blotting paper or a sponge can absorb all the liquid. Mind should absorb, and you have to cultivate that habit.
Yeah. So this is like natural curiosity, and is this something you've always had, or something was cultivated over a period of time through deliberate effort?
Now, over a period of time, I made it better, but it was always had. Yeah. My father was a professor, and he used to tell me, it is not the gray hair, it is not the wrinkles, it is not the digit that make you old. The day you stop learning, you are an old person. Yeah. And that is always in my mind. You know that curious mind to learn something new, to know why it happened. Yeah. And maybe my background of engineering, always to know the real reason. This helped me over a period of time to become more and more refined in observation and absorbing. And ultimately it helped my writing.
I want to go to your start as engineering. I was going through background, and I think it was very difficult for you to even apply to engineering college. And there was a lot of resistance both within the family as well as college, as a difficult. So just maybe go back to that moment and, what was going through your mind when you're deciding that? Other thing I was curious that you studied computer science, back then, that's probably early 70s. I was studying computer science, but that was in late 90s. So it must be like very few people in India at that time who were not even thinking about computer science, because computers themselves were these giant mainframes and, punch card program and all that.
I'm a punch card person. Well, I was 18 years old, 17 and a half, I think. I applied for engineering, and which was unheard in my town. I come from a small town known as Hubli, and I come from a community known as Madhwa Brahmins, where women are extremely good in cooking, and but not adventurous. In the sense, more traditional. They are very traditional people. Yeah. You today, we are very traditional people. Yeah. And I decided to do engineering, which was unheard. People thought there's something wrong with my brain. Maybe a teenage girl can imagine anything. And how a girl can do engineering. It's unheard. They said, everybody had their own reasoning, saying that, like my grandmother said, you should not do engineering because nobody will marry you in our community, in our area. My mother said you should become a MSc mathematics professor so that you can manage house as well as your career. So everybody has a different idea. College also felt, why have a lady? Because there was an idea in those days, a girl will fall in love with a boy immediately. "Sau saal pehle mujhe tumse pyar tha." That kind of song. Or "Maang ke saath tumhara maang liya sansar kain." This kind of an atmosphere, or Dhul Ka Phul kind of a movie. That means a girl will go to college only to fall in love. Or the girl will go to college ultimately to get a better boy. There I come up with the idea of engineering, and only one girl in the university. There were no toilets in my college. Because they believed that how a girl can continue engineering, she will drop out. Why put a girl's toilet?
And throughout those 4 years, were you the only?
I was the only girl in the university in my class. And they did not build toilets. I said, doesn't matter. So 7 to 12, I will not drink water. 7 to 12 or 11, I think I still have college. Go back home, walk back home, use the restroom, have lunch, and go back 2 to 5 lab.
So this incredible amount of determination at that age, to be so in some ways isolated and not accepted, in some ways, both at home and college, and yet having the determination to not only go through, you excel at studies. I mean, from what I was reading, you did very well in that.
I stood first actually to the university.
Yeah.
And that day I realized it's a myth, it's an imagination, it's a man's world. This world belongs to someone who aspires to get that. And I aspire to do that. I also realized one thing in a very young age, maybe at 20 or 19, which became my mantra. And later I realized the great philosophy. You want to do anything in life, you're all alone. And you must do it alone. Okay? If you want to do bad in life, then you are responsible. You will do bad in life. Bad habits, you are responsible. Good things, you are responsible. But later part of my life, I realized it is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Atmahi atmano bandhur, atmahi ripo atmanaha. That means you are your best friend and you are your worst enemy. And that, without knowing that, I realized, look, if I have to do engineering very well, I am responsible. I should not take leave. I never took one day off in 4 years. Okay? Because I don't want to ask notes to anybody. Then I said, if I don't put 100%, then nobody will put any percent to me. So I have to work very hard. So the great philosophy of life, due to circumstances, I realized. And even today, I believe if I want something, I should work for it. I should not depend on anyone. You should be autonomous inside. To be happy, not to be happy, is autonomous, is in your mind.
So irrespective of your circumstances, you take control of your own life and do everything in your...
What you can do, your level best.
Yeah. And you didn't stop there, right? You went to do masters as well after that.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was reading you had this, and at some point, I think in your master's time, you saw this job posting from TELCO, which it's hard to imagine today, but I specifically said that women need not apply. And yet, that kind of challenge you, and maybe share that story.
I knew, I told my father, I want to do MBA, and my father realized that nobody can stop me. He said, he was a great, teacher, and every daughter feels about their daughter, about their father the same, I suppose. I'm not exception. But because of my father, I could do engineering, my parents. My father said, come what may be, I will support you as long as you are legally, ethically right. Okay. So he said, okay, you do your MBA. Then, I came to Indian Institute of Science and the punch card era. You told me, huge IBM 360, we'll take a punch card. And many marriages took place in IISc because of punch card, because a boy and a girl, came and the tray fell down and the cards were swapped and they have to redo again. They sit all night and they became friends and they later became, partners and then married and all. So my deck of cards never fell. I was quite careful about it. And I said, Harry, there's a new thing I never knew in Obling. There's a new computer thing. And it's quite simple. If you're very logical, it gives you results. I said, why can't I learn that? Yeah. And my son always tells me, Amma, you're the best example to teach the history of computer science, that the advance of the computer science. I've seen computers, deck of cards, printing things, dot matrix, this one, etc. But I was attracted to the new machine and I took up But they were, today I think 8th class boy does what I used to do.
Right.
Binary, algebra, etc. I did my MTech, ME. Today I think 8th class boy does all those things.
The things have moved forward, and
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I think you've been big part of it. I think in some ways the IT revolution.
I'm the witness, I will tell you. I'm the witness to in my own life, I've seen the change of India.
Yeah.
The change in India, change in Indian culture, the change in women particularly. The women have become bold, confident, and it makes me very happy.
Yeah, a lot of changes happened, a lot is yet to happen. But I want to still go back to the story of this applying to telco. So you wrote to Mr. JRD, it seems, right? And so that was again very big move. And you could have just said, okay, I mean, you could have felt bad about it, that this job is not for women and just let it be. But you decided to fight.
Yeah. Very funny thing. I always believed in fairness. Okay. Once I was having my lunch and coming back, I had my class and coming back to my hostel. I saw the advertisement, campus recruitment. I wanted to go abroad and do my master's, PhD in computer science. So I said, I should not worry about it. Why should I take up a job? But curiosity in me, said, let me see what this job is. Oh, telco requires young, bright engineers with a handful. It's a good, sir. Training was only 1,500. My father was head of the department, is at 500 or 600. It was 3 times more than my father's salary. Only in training. And well placed, this, that, etc. And Pune or Jamshedpur. At the end, lady students need not apply. Okay? It's like cigarette smoking is injurious to health. You can see, you can't see both.
Yeah.
Then, I just walked back to the hostel and I said, what do you mean by lady students need not apply? Is it technically they are not competent? Or is there any policy which says ladies cannot work this area? Or is it the management has decided they should have only men? All three are unfair. I said, okay, let me inform them. That is what you are doing. I could have kept quiet. I said, no, this is not correct. And in my small way, I should protest it.
Yeah.
Probably it's part of my DNA, I think. So if it is wrong, I want to tell. And if I'm wrong, I want somebody should tell me also. Okay? So I ask apologies to my people with whom I work in case I make mistake. Please tell me where I go wrong. Because the learning process is like how Rigveda says, let all good thoughts should come from all directions, irrespective of the age, gender, and the position. I said, okay, I'll write. Whom I should write, I did not know. JRD Tata used to come to Indian Institute of Science for Founders Day, March 15th. He was very handsome. And from a distance, I said, he looked like a Greek god. Okay. But we don't have any courage to go and talk to him. He was like an emperor of the industry. And I was a girl from a Hubli, small town, middle class family, not much money, but lot of love for learning. I can't go and ask question to him. Okay, I'll write to him. Because telco is nothing but a Tata company. Took a postcard. It's 5 paisa postcard. I think it is come in so many ways, but still I will repeat it. I said, dear sir, I remember, Tatas are always ahead of time compared to any other entrepreneurs. Much before independence, they had iron and steel, Tata Chemicals, Tata Salt. You have built the modern India. And such is your industry background. If you write, lady students need not apply, it is not fair. It is unfair. Unfair to women who have been qualified.
Yeah.
And just because a gender cannot make you inferior or not applicable. Is there anything wrong to be a female? Or my Gyan I wrote in that small postcard. And I did not know where to send. Ignorance, there was no Wikipedia, there was no Google. I said, who is JRD Tata? No, I don't know his address. JRD Tata, and which company wrote this? TELCO. TELCO Bombay, and posted it. That's all I did.
Yeah.
And I did not expect any answer. The whole thing was wrong. It was TELCO, the chairman of TELCO was Mr. Sumant Mulgaonkar. And the address is Mr. Sumant Mulgaonkar, chairman, TELCO, 24 Homi Modi Street, Tamlin Lane, Bombay House, Fort Bombay 1.
Right.
This is the correct address. I read JRD Tata, Telco, Bombay. But he was JRD Tata. It reached him.
Right.
And he called Jakatdar in those days. And other people said, Did you go to IISc Bangalore? He said, yes, we went. What did you advertise? We advertised for young bright engineers. Did you write women need not apply? They said, yes. Why? Sir, it is a Jojobara plant in Bihar. They have to come in shift. It is a machinery job. And all our workers, it is not a college. It is not a research center. So we wrote. He said, there is a girl from a small town girl. And she has asked, you interview her for a technical skill. Okay? But you should interview.
Yeah.
It is not the greatness of me writing a postcard. It is the greatness of that man who could read that postcard out of his 10,000 letters and calling the people and saying that you must interview her.
Yeah.
That's the reason I wrote on him Approach JRD, later part of my life. His blue eyes, it was so fascinating for others. For me, his blue eyes were indicating the vastness of the sky. Ananta, that means there is no end. And depth of the sea, okay, upper, that means nirantara, the deepest. You know, in Sanskrit, because of my background, I can always give the analogies that he was, he was so magnanimous in his heart, in his prayer, in his character, and in his behavior. So thus I had an interview at the Restetist.
It's incredible. I mean, this is so many powerful lessons, Mrs. Murty, in that, one is, again, as an individual, very early in your career, and you see something is wrong, taking a proactive step and not knowing what will happen. That postcard may have been lost, no one might have noticed, and so on. But you decided to take a stance. And in some ways, little postcard, but you poured your heart out. What you truly believed, you were able to articulate and let things be. And similarly, for his part, to pay attention, it also goes to leadership. As a leader, it doesn't matter what you said earlier, where the input is coming from. It could be from an unknown student or somebody from your team or someone for 20 years, but kind of looking at everything impartially and then making a judgment about that, which goes on to show, his greatness in leadership and,
I really believe whatever I do today to a philanthropist, it is only because of House of Tata. I learned a lot there.
No, I think this is probably a good lesson for leaders of today to also pay attention, because a lot of us, when you're in a senior position, you're lost in the you're dealing with important problems, you have big goals to chase and surrounded by important people and so on. But somewhere you can lose touch with reality.
Yeah.
So a lot of people trying to just finding that balance. It's problem.
So many people write postcard to me and say, you wrote a postcard, you got a job. I will write a postcard, you get me a job. I said, no, not that way. That is.
I think you mentioned in your father, and in the 3000 Stitches book, one of the story which I found very poignant is him having to go to this village in the middle of a night to help somebody with a childbirth.
So my father was a young man of 22 or 23 years. He was a licensee to practice, LCPS they used to call. And one night, it was Amavasya night, someone knocks his door and tells in Marathi that you just follow with your doctor's bag and there's a patient. And he wants to tell something in Marathi, but he was not able to get the words. They said, don't talk. If you talk more, we will count your bones. Kind of threatening. He just got into the village Bailgadi or the cart.
Yeah.
And he said it was pouring, and it was dark. Destination I did not know. Then after several hours, they reached the destination.
It was forcefully taken.
Forcefully. No, it's like a daku kind. There was no banduk, but there was a lathi. He gets down and they put him inside and lock the door, secure. Or do what? And he sees there a 16 years old girl who is pregnant. And he's a young man of 21 or 22, maybe 23. And the girl said, doctor, I want to die, don't cure. Okay. First he realized that she's pregnant. She's 16 years old and he has to conduct a delivery. And he remembered when he was a student, he saw, and it was in 1942-43 this happened. That time a patient will deliver there and male students will stand somewhere after half a furlong kind just to see, because it was not allowed to see how delivery is conducted, because it was a taboo. And he recollected, how the delivery was conducted. And he himself had 9 siblings, how his mother's delivery was conducted. With approximately, he did not know how to conduct, there was no table. He took rice bags, it was a go down actually, put them one after that and made her to sleep on that. And he told, I was more scared than her because it's my first patient and she dies that these people may kill me. Okay? And if she delivers, something goes wrong, then I'm responsible. But somehow she delivered. My father used to tell me, later part of his life, how such patient should have been delivered in a much better way. But that time he did not know. And it was a baby girl. And she asked my father, the boy or a girl. He said, girl. She started crying. She said, and the child did not breathe. In olden days, when the child doesn't breathe, they used to make upside down the child hold and, do like this to the child will do. Today they don't do that. It's not a good thing. My father started doing that. She said, don't do that, let her die. My father said, I am a doctor. I have taken the oath. I will help patient to revive and not to kill. And let the child, I will try my level best to revive the child. Then he asked, me the process. Why are you asking this? No mother will tell this. And you are not like a normal patient. Your husband is not there, your in-laws are not there, middle of the night. She told, I became pregnant due to my young age. There was a mistake. And the man who did that ran away. My father wants to kill me, but, I was at an advanced stage. And this child will go to an orphanage and they'll remarry me. I don't want that life. So somehow I want to run away. And my father said, there's always another hope in life. This is you're only 16. And by the time the child cried, the outside parents came to know. They called my father, you come out. And he came out. My father's salary was 75. They gave him 100 rupees as a consultation fee. My father said, oh, wait a minute. I forgot my knife inside and I want to take. He came inside and told that girl, take this 100 rupees with you. This is my first earning and only earning. You take this. Go to Pune. And there is a nursing school. And you tell there, my father was Ramchandra Hanumant Kulkarni, popularly known as RH. Okay? RH has sent me. There one Mr. Apte is there. Yeah. He will help you out to become a good nurse. And that's he said only RH. And he came out. The rest journey was then. He said, don't talk where we went, how she delivered. He said no. They dropped him home. And my father sat and thought about his life. If the patient would have died, for me, it's one patient died. For a child, the mother dies. If a mother dies, the child will be orphan. Everything in life is available except mother's love. He said, I must become an MBBS doctor, learn more about women. Yeah. I don't want in my practice women should die. He was so much sensitive about women's issue. Then when I was born, my later he got married, then I was the second child. Yeah. He went back in JJ Medical College and did his MBBS. Yeah. When I was 12 years old, my father saved some money, got admission, did his MS in gynecology. Oh, really? It was my father's ardent love for helping women in delivery, made him only gynecologist in that area, male gynecologist.
Incredible. It was very inspiring. So again, first of all, father had a very generous heart. I think he went out of his way to have this woman, which he eventually met much later in life.
It's like a movie. Yeah. It's like a movie, After many years, maybe after 30, 35 years, maybe, my father went to a conference. He was retired, but still he was a professor in a medical college. He would always take notes. That time there was no Wikipedia. Yeah. He died 25 years back. So I'm talking about 30, 40 years back. He went and one doctor read a very good paper and he was very happy. And he always used to do that. When the lady came down, he said, doctor, your paper was fantastic. I learned so much in this. Congratulations. She said, thank you. He doesn't know who that girl is. And someone called, RH, it's getting late. Tomorrow you have to book a train ticket or something. Then she stopped from my father and said, why they called you RH? He said, my name is RH Kulkarni, but I'm very popular, the RH. Did you study in Pune? She said, of course I said Pune. Were you a doctor in Chandigarh? He said, yes, of course, a doctor in Chandigarh. No, were you a doctor in that area? He said, yes. Then she caught hold of his hand. He said, you must come home. Because there's somebody who is waiting for you. My father was scared. He said, who is waiting for me? Only my wife is waiting for me at home. He said, no, doctor, let's not talk. You have to come. Then he told his PA, and he was worried. I don't even know this doctor girl. Why she's taking like a ransom? She's kidnapping me or what? I don't have money. He said, okay. He told his friends, I'll come later. Then he went with her, and she did not talk anything. Then they went to their house. She knocked the door, and the lady came. And she told that lady, Dr. RH has come. The lady started crying and touching my feet. My father said, I'm not able to remember. Where is my patient? Where is my student? Because my father was a professor. Yeah. Then she told, I'm the same patient whom you delivered on a rice bag. And gave me 100 rupees. That changed my life. I ran to Pune. I did what is this man, nursing course. I became OT nurse. In medical college, OT nurse is most respected, better than a junior doctor. And this girl who you revived,
Yeah.
I made her a gynecologist, and I did not know your name, RH. And sometimes I remember maybe Ramachandra. I thought R means normally, so I called her Chandra. And now she and her husband are practicing this village, and she cried. My father had tears, and she looked out. He looked at outside the house. It was RH diagnostic.
Wow, what a story.
It was like a movie. Then she told a lot more things. How she wanted to trace my father. She was not able to trace because we moved to Karnataka, and she did not know what is my father's surname, all those things. And after he died later, she said there was no way I could have traced you because there was no Facebook in those days.
So one act of kindness can have such dramatic, impact for who knows, for generations. And I think you have kind of, in some ways, continue the legacy with the, Infosys Foundation. I mean, incredible projects. There are too many to recount. But, as I was going through your book, 3,000 Stitches, again, the story of, you work with the Devdasis, in your Karnataka. This, again, that's not a very obvious project. I think there are, an impact space. People work on different things. You look at water and education and so on, which are all important. But there's some almost like taboo subjects. People don't go near it because they are socially very complicated. Your reputation may come under attack and so on. But you start this book, again, that's a outstanding story. What you are able to do with this, with at least 3,000, people who were kind of literally bonded in some ways, it's a particular way of life. But I think through your effort, you are able to make significant changes. And hopefully, I think, maybe a little bit also about, what prompted you to work on that project, and what is your experience like, with getting involved in that?
Like I told you, my grandfather was a school teacher in history. And when we were children, he used to talk about Devdasis. Because there are a lot of Shasana or the stone inscriptions are available in Karnataka, life of women in the court. And they were extremely powerful women, very learned, highly educated in the fine arts. And they used to have a social standing of a great importance. And over a period of time, it fell down. And particularly in the British time, they were not knowing our culture. So the system came under a lot of attack and advantage. By the time it was deteriorated, so the whole system of Devdasi, serving the god, was abolished. Now these women now are not well educated. They come from that clan, and they are no good in fine arts now. So they unfortunately they will turn out to be, most of them to be prostitutes. Okay, and their life is very miserable.
Right.
And this I was aware when I knew about Devdasi system. And when we started Infosys Foundation in 1996, my father asked me, what are your projects you have decided? I was only 45, 46 years old. I said, I really feel bad for those sisters of ours. With no fault of theirs, they are born in that community and they are sold. Something should be done for them. And that is my aim. They think over it. It is not an easy project. I said, no, I will do that. And with little bit of ignorance, I started, and I had a very tough time initially. It took 18 to 22 years for me to establish. Actually, establish it took almost 10 years.
Yeah.
But to get good results, 18 to 22 years. I worked very hard. The failure rate was 95%. Okay, success rate. For many years, it was a single digit. And there will always threat on my life. Because the pimps will call me and said, you are doing this work, okay? So we will break your knee, okay? Then I started taking security. But the main reason this became successful because I have even today that excellent human being by the name Abhay Kumar, who dedicated his entire life for this project. Without him, I would not have done. We should not take the fame unnecessarily when other people have worked with us, okay? People who have worked, they should get this. I may be the face, but Abhay is the heart. And we worked together for a long time, relentlessly, okay, with police protection. And we came out. Now they have done exceedingly well. I'm going to present you one of the quilt they make, which I gift to people whom I value. Otherwise, I don't give this gift to you.
Well, it's very kind of you. I am very honored. I look forward to that. But I think, see, I mean, you can use this very well. Today in our country, a lot of people genuinely want to tackle tough problems. They want to, we are proud of, where India is going. A lot of younger people also want to make an impact. But for them to realize that, some of the complex issue requires a persistence and patience because and also a lot of setbacks. It's one thing to have a desire that I want to make an impact. But if you expect dramatic results in 1 or 2 years, that's not going to happen, right? So just realizing that starting small, making little inroads, taking calculated risk, and just staying with it, is what in the end, produces results. We can look back and feel good about.
Yeah, because many people say, how you can scale it immediately. I don't think of scaling. And many things that you have to have a big dream. Yeah. I never had a big dream. I said always, I think first this problem can be economically, physically, socially, politically can be solved. If it is, yes, let me do this other prototyping first. In prototyping, because of my engineering background, I can think always analytically. If in prototyping, what difficulties I see, can I solve in the next project? And if it is feasible, and then you try, making it larger projects. But to do all these experiments, you require 10 to 12 years. In computer science, you press a button, you get the latest update. Human beings are not computer. Their mind is not computer. They are complex people. And any social change requires so much time. It may be Dahej, it may be ostracizing people, it may be women's education, it may be domestic violence. There are many are there. Everything takes time. We should have like what you said is, you should go on working until you get the results. And that happens, but you should have patience.
Right.
And this is one thing which is missing in the coming generation is instant gratification.
Yeah.
You want to see Ramayana, press a button. You want to see something else, press a button. You want to see Tom and Jerry, press a button. We are so much used to instantaneous gratification with beautiful color, enchanting music. So we are losing that element of patience, which is essential in life.
Absolutely. And I don't know how to enable it. I don't know what is your method of enabling for yourself, because we are so busy from morning till night, so much content to consume, so many distractions. And, we look at stories of, people who are, rich and famous, their lifestyle and so on. Everyone wants to have that, but don't have that space to get bored, to just let things be, let things slowly simmer, like you talked about in your stories. Sometimes you just let them sit there and you go back to them after 1 month and after again, 10 years, one novel you said, but that's how would people cultivate that? It is a challenge because especially with no fault of youngsters also because everyone is vying for their attention. All these, algorithms are so smart, they are designed to be very addictive. So what can people do to counter this?
Maybe to some extent you should internalize what you want. Do you want money? All the time money. Okay. Do you want fame? What do you want? I always internalized in my mind. I want happiness of my mind. My happiness of my mind went on changing, every 5 years. In college level, my happiness was always getting a first rank because how to beat boys. They always used to make, girls can't do, then I will do better than that. Because you are young, you are teenager, to show them how we can do. Today it doesn't mean anything to me. Okay. And when I was, we started Infosys, we should be very good. We should be very good. But not money-wise, I never thought. We should be very good. Legal, ethical values we should have. Okay. And we worked very hard for that many years. Now it doesn't matter because now Infosys is quite big company and they manage what they want. Then I concentrate on children. My children should live as simple as possible, as long as they are with me. Yeah. Later, once they get married, then it is their life. Sure. Okay. So you become a mother who will walk the talk. Yeah. So I will live simple. So I will talk. What I teach them, I will live the same way. Right. Look, my son, I told him, we should not see TV. He said, you don't see. I said, okay, no TV. So I said, we will not buy TV and all. So I just left it. It's okay. We have to make an extra mile, extra effort, parents, today's scenario. Mm-hmm. But still the results are not guaranteed. Yeah. Not guaranteed. Mm-hmm. What you want, what are your demands? Is it feasible? How much I can afford that in terms of the emotions time? You should draw an invisible line. Mm-hmm. And it is left to you. Right. For example, 1 crore may be too much for someone. Someone 10 crore may be too little for somebody. 100 crore is a peanut to someone else. So, what kind of money you want to get? And if you understand a little bit of life, no, you don't have to worry about competition. For example, I should look better than somebody. No. You want to look better yourself, you do that. I should earn more than him. No. You earn because you have to compete with yourself. That we don't do. We always compete with someone. And that's never ending. So you compete with yourself. Look, I should be a better human being. And this much money is enough for me. I want to do something for the society where I am born. Or I want to earn money legally, ethically, and give part of it to somebody. So you have to internalize this in your mind. For that, you require control of the mind. You require a sensitivity of the mind to understand what life is. And I learned it in a very young age with my work. What my country needs. What life is. Fortunately, I worked with Foundation. I realized, I used to tell Mr. Murty, for you, software export is the must. Because you are a businessman. For me, in seeing all the difficulties around in my country, if the child takes 3 meals a day, 3 sets of clothes, and good English and good mother tongue, and life-saving skill, along with one of those surviving skills, I think I'm very happy. My whole world is so different. And that this world always gives me happiness.
So that ability to introspect and kind of come to terms with what truly matters to you, which is not affected by what's happening around you, what other people are doing. So then you can live a life more in tune with that. You do justice to, but for that first, to recognize what is that you truly matters, which is to happiness.
I always tell, to build relationship, it requires a lot of time. And when you build good relationship, there's always misunderstanding. How much, as much as possible, don't break it. Breaking takes one day. Building takes many years. All of us are like islands. And relationships are like bridge. Okay? It takes years together to build a bridge. It takes a day to destroy it. So please remember, having good friends. Okay? Good family relation. And so, a good work, your own work, you feel happy about it. These are, for me, again, this is highly subjective, very important. And I was a teacher in university, Christ University for a long time. And I used to have a debate with my students. I will have a class of 45 minutes. Okay. I used to teach computers and Java, C++, database management. I used to teach all these. 15 minutes I used to keep for them to understand what you want in life. I said, ask this question. Don't ask your mother, father, anyone, yourself. Atma hi, Atmano Bandhur. Your own heart tells you what you want. And are you capable of attending it? Okay? This is what I used to discuss. I meet my students who have been very good entrepreneurs now. On a brigade road here, there, and they say, or they come and meet me. I said, children, I taught you C++, Java. Tell me, what do you remember? Which helped you? None of them. What helped me is your 15 minutes discussion about life, stories about life. That helped us a lot in real life.
That's a great lesson for, people who are formally teachers, but a lot of people, whether as a parent also you're a teacher, or as a manager also you're a teacher, right? Like remembering to not get focused on basic technicalities, teaching C++, Java is a technical aspect, but there's a human aspect, and cultivating that introspecting, because that's a very good thought. We can all create those opportunities. Just have this 50-minute conversation
every day, right, with them. And they used to tell me, ma'am, your stomach is full. Okay, that time Infosys is quite well known, I said, it is nothing to do with stomach. You should earn money legally, ethically. We are not Bhagavan Buddha who can leave everything and go on preaching. It is not possible. Earn money legally, ethically, 10, 15, 20 years of your life. I always advise, earn money. Right. And then, that's the reason in we say, Palayit Pancha Varshata, when you are a kid, you should cuddle with your children. Later in teenage, you should be respected like a friend. Then you should earn money, Grahastha Ashrama. As a bachelor, how you should learn, whatever study you do, 100%. And Grahastha Ashrama, look after your family, that is, and your parents' responsibility, but earn money. When your responsibility is over, then comes the Vanaprastha, where you are not attached to any of these things. You are have to give your life to the society.
All right. So, Mrs. Murty, listening to your stories and they will describe, you are able, you bring up these quotes from Bhagavad Gita, from Vedas, clearly very well read. So what's your, you always been a reader? What roles books have played in your life?
Yeah, I've always been a reader. Like books are never failing friends. And I come from a teacher's family. My mother was a school teacher. My sister was a professor in Bengaluru Medical College. My brother is at Caltech as a professor.
Yeah.
So in our family, the most important thing is book,
Oh,
not wealth.
yeah.
We never had that kind of a wealth also. It's a birthday, you have a book. It's Diwali, instead of 2 dress, 1 dress, 1 book. Right? Choice is yours. Okay? 2 dress money is kept. So I'll take 1 dress, 1 book, that kind. We built our own library in a very young age. And because of my grandfather, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about Indian history. And he baptized us into history probably in a very young age, 12 maybe.
Yeah.
He said, if you do not know the history of your country, then you will never appreciate the culture of our country. So you want to know someone else in other country, you should read the history of that country. So he told, at the age of 18, you should know history of India very well.
Yeah.
Okay? At the age of 21, you should know the history of... So, at the age of 18, you should know history of India. At the age of 21, history of the world. At the age of 16, you should know history of Karnataka.
Yeah.
So, these were the bars for us. And that helped me a lot as my hobby.
Yeah.
Okay? So, I went on collecting history books wherever I go. I have my own library at home. So, Mr. Murthy has 2 libraries. I have 1 library. And both of us have our respective libraries in the office. And when we had less money, that time Murthy used to buy books, and 1 month he will buy, 1 month I will buy. Okay? So books have been an inseparable part of my life.
And you read nearly every day?
About 150 pages I have to read, otherwise I can't sleep.
150 pages. So almost you're finishing almost a book every 2 to 3 days.
I can finish a book.
And throughout your life?
Throughout my life, I read that one. Sometimes less in case I'm international travel, but sometimes more in international travel because, I get so much time to read. Okay? Or traveling by train, I won't get... and by and large, 100 to 150 pages, I must...
So can you talk a bit more about what books mean to you? And it's a lot of commitment, and they're outstanding. I have, I started reading books late, I think in my late teenage years, but I'm very in love with books. In fact, I've done a whole episode only about books. So I think pretty much whatever I have in my life, I think book have played a huge role. But I see that, books as a medium are not very popular in our country, especially now with the, short form content and audio content, video content and so on. People are consuming with this tiny format. But books are kind of leisurely. You read slowly, you can stop them whenever you want. So tell me, what books mean to you, and what do you think, parents, a lot of adults listening to it, like how should they think about books in their lives?
I've talked about it many, many times. But the form of reading may be different. For example, olden days there used to be the leaves. Today we read the books. People read Wikipedia. Okay? The form is same. The forms are different. The approach is different. Now, looking at book reading, we want our children should read books, right? But if we don't read, they don't read. So I feel most of the time it's mothers. You should make every week half a day reading sessions. My mother used to do, I did to my children. Every day, 3 hours, every week, 3 to 4 hours. I will read, you will read. What book you will read? Only I used to know, I keep an eye, but I will say, I don't know, whatever you want, but I keep an eye on it. So books, and then you have to discuss about books. Yeah. So I told my son, okay, read about Indus Valley. Let's talk about Indus Valley. I will take you to Lothal. You can see the Indus Valley civilization. Or I will take you, I talked about many things to him. The kingdom of Karnataka, the Vaisala dynasty. Yeah. I took him to Halebeedu Beluru. This is the dynasty which created the finest art in stone in the world. Recently we got World Heritage Tag when I was the chairman of the tourism department. We tried for that and we got it. So you have to discuss with your children what they read. And even now I tell my son, or my children, when I meet them, what is the latest book you have read? Let us discuss. And with my grandchildren, I do that one. She talked about Pompeii. I said, okay, I will take you to Pompeii. But you tell me what you know about Pompeii. And, I told you should come to India and see, equivalent of that in India. We have to discuss with children. Make it very interesting things. It's not you read something and I read something. No, read and discuss. This can make them hooked to reading. And I always tell, I never get bored when I'm alone. I enjoy. Saturdays I keep for reading in case I'm in town and I don't have work. Saturday full day I want to read 1 week's quota probably. I can finish 2-3 books, read. Then sit down and think about what I have read. Was it right?
Yeah. And Mr. Murthy, from whatever I can see from outside, you are, with age, you are still, very energetic. You are reading, learning, engaged in a lot of projects, starting new projects. So do you think, books in some way also helps you with that, keeping your mind fresh and helping you learn about new things, curiosity, and just finding that, drive and energy for the project?
Yes,
You know, to say.
because books are my never failing friends. I converse with them. I never keep a book on the cold ground. I always cover because I feel they are living for me. They're like my friends, and I always keep a bookmark. I never make a page folding. I said no, somebody is doing like this to me. And books give me a lot of strength because at this stage I don't go to Himalayas, but I want to know how people live in Himalayas. So if I go, I get 100% knowledge. But if I read a book, at least I get 50%. So I don't go to Antarctica, but I read about that. I get 30% knowledge. Yeah. Books open the doors to the sacred knowledge, I feel. The abundant knowledge around us, books open the doors to walk out.
So you're saying you almost have a kind of spiritual relationship with the books and library.
Yeah.
When you walk into your library, let's say curiosity, mood change, you feel differently?
Of course. See, I get up at 5 a.m. on Saturday, Sunday. Immediately I go to my library. I said, don't disturb me up to night. I see which book I have not read. New books, I have a rack. Every new book I keep there. And if I read, when I have time, I read. And if they're worth to keep it, I keep it. Otherwise, I give it to library. So I'm very particular about maintenance of the library. And in summer, I put them to, on the mat and put them to sun so that they don't become yellow. I take care of my books very well.
And do you read multiple books simultaneously? No. You pick one and you finish it.
And then I take some time. If I finish my book, after that I'll take an hour. Sometimes I take an hour or I finish it in the night. I think about it early morning. What this book conveyed and what did I gain by this book?
Yeah.
Okay. Not just time pass. I will never do time pass with books. Books are my friends, my guru, and I learn a lot from them.
No, that's super inspiring. I'm a huge fan of books, and I think everyone actually listening to this podcast should seriously consider, the role of book in their lives. People can read even one great book a year can change your life. You can read one a month, you can read one a week. I mean, there are no dearth of outstanding books, right? But one needs to a little bit of prioritize. And I think I also want to touch about what you mentioned earlier, that in a home, books they say more for culture as opposed to assignment. It's something that's just part and fabric of in my home also pretty much every room has some books, right? So you see, you discuss, and that's how it becomes an autopilot habit, and then eventually this kind of relationship where you can't think of a life without.
Yeah. Actually, I will tell you, I have traveled everywhere in India. There are two places which fascinate me. One is Bengal, and particularly Calcutta. The other one is Kerala. In Bengal, everyone loves books. For example, the Mela, when there is a book Mela, there is a joy. It is not a sari Mela. It is not a fashion Mela. It's a book Mela. I went to somebody's house and they had a child, 10-year-old child. And then I realized I did not bring anything for the child. It's an Indian custom and I'm an old lady. I must take something for the child. And what to give, I didn't realize. It was 8 o'clock in the night. I called the child and gave 1,000 rupees. I said, better go and buy the sweet. Okay. I could not bring it. He said, no, Dadiji. I said, why? He said, I'll save this book for the Saraswati. They have Saraswati festival. We have a children Mela. That books Mela. I'm going to buy it. I felt so nice. I said, what a culture, yeah. And I gave one more 1,000. I said, keep this one with you. Once you buy, which was my sweet. Second one I give you, continue to read. I said, that is the finest culture. A child saves money to buy books. Amazing. Okay. Second one is Kerala. I do not know the language, but I went to Kerala Book Festival, DC Festival in Kazikode. And so many people, it was like a festival. I feel that is the utsaha or the happiness or the enthusiasm of a festival. People come, shop the book, how much it costs, what discount. I mean, it's so vibrant, I feel. And there is Kerala.
Right.
And this is only because women are powerful in both states.
That's right. Wow, that's a very strong correlation and I think makes sense. I think so. Yeah, so empowering more women can automatically prop up, the...
Mother makes a lot of difference to children. I feel, I'm convinced in my long journey of 73 years, mothers they make the difference to the family. Mother reads, you read. Mother doesn't read, you don't read. Mother lies, you lie. That's the reason we say in Kathopanishad, the most important person in your life is mother and Matru Devo.
Right. The Murthy Foundation, you started a new project about animal welfare. In fact, one of this book, this whole series about Gopi, it's like you were sharing earlier that Gopi is, as well known as you are because of the...
Probably a little more because he's very handsome. Okay.
Yeah, so, this new project, so what's the objectives and what are you doing?
Our daughter-in-law, Aparna Krishnan, is extremely kind-hearted to a fault with our dogs. I asked her, "Beta, what do you want for your marriage? I want to buy." She said, "I want to adopt a dog from the shelter who will not be allotted by anybody." So she took a dog with the 3 legs. Then Rohit took a dog with the 2 legs. So they have a 2-leg dog, they have a 3-leg dog, and I have my Gopi 4-leg. Yeah. Okay. She's very, very kind, and she opened my eyes. Life of animals on the street, in the shelter. So I work more with the animal care for animals. And, we have started a cat sterilization sector now. And Gopi himself earns a lot of money. And he gives every month a lakh of rupee to buy rice for the street dogs. Gopi alone does that. Okay.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. What Gopi earns, that on royalty on his books. He donates it. Shelters, medicines. Okay. So many areas we are working with keeping animals safe, operation, awareness. In school, it is not possible for everyone to have a dog at home because it is like having a baby at home who never grows. Okay. And you have to spend a lot of time on your domestic and pet. So I tell them, please remember, if you're living in a flat, you can't have a dog at home. It is not easy. At least once a week, parents should take the child to a shelter to have to develop a compassion for the animals and feed the animals. Give your birthday, you make so much expense with the balloons and all. Save a little bit of money. 500 rupees out of it. Give it to animal care. They really require it. There are so many animals on the street. Horse, cow, bullock. They are old, they are kept somewhere in a place. So please share some of your small amount of money because sharing is care.
So, Mrs. Murthy, I think this theme, and throughout your career throughout your life is clear that in some way you really care about the society at large, whether it's people who are underprivileged or animals, who are not getting the support they need. And you just feel you're driven, your knowledge, your resources, your content, translate into projects, starting initially, as you mentioned, but some projects acquire life of their own and eventually become a large-scale project as well. Yeah, so, I just want to thank you for taking time. And I think, your work, your life is super inspiring and you're very generous with your time today to share all these stories. I'm pretty sure the youngsters of India will find it, quite inspiring. A lot of lessons they can take in their life. But hopefully, other can find inspiration to come to. Thank you.
Thank you.
At SparX, we aim to bring to you stories of exponential impact. We share in-depth analysis of what goes behind success stories. If you find our conversations interesting, you can join us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can also listen to SparX on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or any other audio platform of your choice. If you have any suggestions on who we should invite or what topics we need to cover, just let us know in the comments. We are always listening, looking for ways to improve, and keep getting better as we go along.